Hello BookTube, I'm Jonathan and welcome to Words in Time. Now in today's video, I'm going to be sharing 5 sci-fi series I want to start and 5 sci-fi series I want to finish in 2022. Now throughout the year, I will be mixing in standalones, both classic and modern, but today I wanted to share some of the series that I'm excited to dive into, some of those universes that I really want to explore. So for these first 5 series, I will definitely be reading book 1 this year. And based on how much I enjoy it and how much potential I think there is for this series, I'll decide whether to continue. And the order in which I will be revealing them is the rough order that I'm going to be reading them throughout the year. The next couple months of my TBR are pretty locked in, and then the further we get away from now, I'm going to be a little bit more flexible, but I do have the year roughly planned out. So let's get into it with series number 1. The first series I'm going to be starting is the Remembrance of Earth's Past trilogy by Cixin Liu. And the first book in the trilogy is The Three-Body Problem. And I was supposed to be doing a buddy read at the start of March with Baron from Your Brain on Books, but my good friend Baron decided to pull out of the buddy read, so I'm going to need you to go to his channel and subscribe because he's awesome and you'll love his content. But after you've subscribed, I'm going to need you to make him feel bad for pulling out of the buddy read. Baron, you might not be reading The Three-Body Problem, but you're about to have a these hands problem, my guy. No, love you, Baron. Go check out his channel, and at the start of the March, I guess I'll be reading this alone, so if you guys want to join me, pick up The Three-Body Problem. I have been told not to read too much about it before I start, but it's supposed to be some big idea sci-fi, which is right up my alley. I totally love that kind of sci-fi writing. Arthur C. Clarke is one of my favorite writers. No idea if that's a good comparison at all, but this one's supposed to be pretty mind-bending, and I'm excited to get started. I'm feeling good about this one. I think I'm going to end up reading the trilogy, but we'll see with The Three-Body Problem starting in March. So the second series I want to start this year is The Book of the New Sun by Gene Wolfe. Now, there are people that will tell you that this isn't actually a series, it is just one book split into 4 volumes, but there is the sequel, Earth of the New Sun. So, regardless of whether you consider that to be book 5 or book 2, we can say that this is a series that I'm going to be reading, and the reactions that I've seen to this online is very interesting. I feel like I'm either going to think that it is complete genius or complete nonsense. I've heard it is a little bit of a difficult read, a bit of a dense read, but very rewarding, very unique. I believe it's set at an unspecified time in the future, but thousands, if not millions of years into the future. So I'm really excited to try something new. I've read a little bit of Wolfe's prose just to get a taste for it, and I think I'm gonna love it. So excited to start this one with The Shadow of the Torturer, which is on my schedule for April. Moving on to the third series I want to read this year, we have the IMPERIAL RADCH trilogy by Anne Leckie. Now, the first book in the series, Ancillary Justice, won both the Hugo and Nebula Awards. And I believe this is a space opera with artificially intelligent spaceships, which I'm a big fan of. And the Goodreads rating for this book is a little lower than some of the other books on my list, so I'm interested to see why, but you had me at AI spaceships. I'm excited to get into this space opera. This is on my schedule for May, so let me know if you've read it, what I should expect, and if you want to join me, that's when I'll be reading the IMPERIAL RADCH trilogy. Next, as the fourth series that I want to start this year, we have the Commonwealth Saga by Peter F. Hamilton. Now, I know this is only a duology, but they are each around 1,000 pages a book, so I think the page count on this is probably longer than Book of the New Sun, maybe not as hard to read as the Book of the New Sun, but it is a pretty long duology. So I'll be starting with Pandora's Star, and I did actually intend to read this towards the end of last year, but such a big book, it kind of made it tricky to complete my end of year goals, so I bumped it to 2022, but I will definitely be reading it this year. It is supposed to be a pretty epic space opera. I've heard some people describe it as a bit slow, but I've heard other people say it's actually rather plot heavy. But I'm excited by some of the science, the concepts, the action that I've heard is in this book, and I'll be getting into it around the middle of the year. Not leaving such a big book to the end of the year this time. Around the middle of the year, I'll be reading Pandora's Star by Peter F. Hamilton. And the fifth series I want to start in 2022 is the Silo trilogy by Hugh Howey. Now, this is more commonly known by the name of the first book in the series, Wool, and I believe Wool was originally written as 5 shorter volumes that were then combined into the Wool Omnibus, and which is around 500 pages, and Hugh Howey then followed that up with Shift and Dust. So this is a post-apocalyptic dystopian type story, which, if I'm being honest, is not always my favorite genre, but these people, this society living in silos, sounds kind of interesting to me. It sounds like a bit of an interesting take, a new take on this genre. So I've heard good things. I'm excited to check it out, starting with Wool, probably also around the middle of the year that I will get to it. So I've only seen a few people that have read this one. So if you have read Wool or the entire Silo series, let me know your thoughts. I'm excited to get into this one, the 5th series I want to start this year. Alright, so let's move on to the 5 series I want to finish in 2022. So these are series that I've already started and I want to finish if they're completed series, or if they're ongoing, I want to catch up and be up to date with them. So let's get started with the first series. So the first series I want to finish is TEIXCALAAN by Arkady Martine. Now this should be the easiest one for me to finish because it's only a duology and I've already read book 1, so we just have one book to go. I really enjoyed A Memory Called Empire. It did make my top 10 reads of the year list for 2021, and I'm very excited to read A Desolation Called Peace. This is a space opera, but it is a bit less focused on action and a bit more focused on characters and political intrigue and language and culture, and thought it was a very unique, very well done book, and I'm hoping that the sequel can take the series to new heights. So I'll be reading this probably March or April at the latest. So yes, definitely a big fan of TEIXCALAAN so far. The second series I want to finish this year is The Expanse by James S.A. Corey. I'm actually currently reading the 4th book in the series, Cibola Burn, and so far I would describe each of the books that I've read in the series to vary from pretty good to very good. So I am enjoying the series. This might not be my number 1 priority throughout the rest of the year, but I think if I read one entry every 2 months, that should get me to book 9 by the end of the year, I believe. So let me know your thoughts on The Expanse. Which were your favorite books? Which ones should I be looking most forward to throughout the year? I've already bought Cibola Burn and Nemesis games. Let me know if you enjoyed those or any of the others even more. Moving on to the 3rd series I want to finish or be up to date with, we have Sun Eater by Christopher Rocchio. Now, if you've been following the channel for a while, you will know that this is my favorite current sci-fi series. If I could have, I would have put Empire of Silence, Howling Dark, and Demon in White in my top 10 reads of the year list video, but I decided to limit myself to 1 entry per author, so I picked Demon in White. Go check out that video to see where it ranked in the top 10, but absolutely loving this series, and now is a great time to get into it. 2022 is going to be the year of the Sun Eater, because we have not 1 book, not 2 books, but 2 books and a short story collection being released in 2022. The first book coming out in March, I believe March 22, I've already pre-ordered it, is Kingdoms of Death. I am super excited for this one, just over a month away. I can't wait to read book 4, and just last night guys, we had the cover and title reveal for book 5. I'm going to throw that up there for you. It is Ashes of Man. So man, I'm so excited for not 1, but 2 books. If you haven't checked this out, it is kind of sci-fi meets fantasy, told in a first-person perspective with deep characters, themes, awesome action, and sci-fi concepts. It's a really rich world that you can sink your teeth into, so can't speak highly enough about Sun Eater. I'm sure it's going to be one of my favorite things that I read in 2022. The 4th series I want to finish in 2022 is The Culture series by Ian M. Banks. Now, so far I have read The Player of Games, which I really enjoyed, and Use of Weapons, which I was a little bit mixed on. Now, that pushed it down my TBR list just a little bit in terms of priority, but I am intrigued by the series and do want to get through it. There are 9 novels and 1 short story collection in the Culture series, and they can all be read as standalones. So you don't necessarily need to read them in order, but everybody has different recommendations on which order in which you should tackle them. So I'm going to go back to the first one, consider Fleabas, and start there, and then move on to Accession, because I really like the sound of the premise for that one. And after that, we'll see. I think if I really enjoy those two, I think I'm going to make it a bit more of a priority to get through the Culture series quickly. And if I'm not super excited about it, we'll see. We'll decide whether I want to push on with the series or how quickly I'll get through them. So let me know your thoughts on the Culture series. If you've read any of them, do you agree with my reading order? Which are your favorites? We'll see how far I get through the Culture series in 2022. And the 5th series on my schedule to finish for this year is Red Rising. So I have read the original trilogy, Red Rising, Golden Sun, and Morning Star, and I enjoyed all 3 books. I would say that Golden Sun was probably a slight favorite over the other 2, and the original trilogy felt somewhat complete. I didn't initially feel the need to read any more in the series, but I heard some pretty good reviews for the 2nd trilogy, especially for Dark Age, book 5 in the series. And for me, when I read this is a little bit flexible because I enjoyed the first series enough to continue. I could just go ahead and read it right away, but part of me wanted to time it with the release of book 6. However, from what I've read online, we don't have too much information about when that is going to be. It could come out in 2022, but I wouldn't necessarily bet on that. So let me know what you guys think I should do. Have you read it? Is it great? Should I just go ahead and read it right away? Or do you think I should try and hold off a little bit and schedule it a bit closer to the release of book 6? So it's a bit more fresh in my mind for the release of the final book in the series. So there you go, guys. Those are 5 new series and 5 series I'm already enjoying that I'm going to be reading in 2022. Let me know what you guys are reading, what's on your schedule, and let me know if you'd like to join me for any of these. It would be fun for us to read along together. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to like and subscribe because, as always, there's more sci-fi content coming soon.